You have to understand something about human nature. People rarely appreciate what they never fear losing. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't to shout, argue, or explain your worth. It's to say nothing at all. Silence isn't weakness. It isn't avoidance. It's a statement so strong that it forces the other person to listen in the one way they can't interrupt. With their own thoughts. When you've been hurt, disrespected, or undervalued, the natural instinct is to fight for recognition. You want them to see the pain they've caused, to feel the weight of your emotions, to understand exactly why they were wrong. So you send long messages. You call late at night. You sit across from them in a coffee shop, trying to pour your heart out. And yet, most of the time, the more you try to make them understand, the less they truly hear you. Because when you're explaining, you're still present. You're still giving them the gift of your attention, your energy, your time. They may nod, they may say they understand, but deep down, there's no urgency for them to change because they still have access to you. Silence changes that. Silence removes you from the equation. It takes away their safety net. Suddenly, they're no longer hearing your voice every day, no longer feeling the warmth of your presence, no longer able to reassure themselves that you're still there waiting for them. Instead, they're left with an empty space where you used to be, and that absence speaks volumes they can't ignore. Here's the thing. When you choose silence, it's not about punishing them. It's about protecting you. It's about stepping back so you can breathe again without being tangled in the mess of someone else's behavior. It's about creating the space to see things clearly, to recognize your own value, and to remind yourself that your worth doesn't need to be explained over and over. And silence is uncomfortable, especially for them. People are used to filling silence with excuses, with explanations, with quick words meant to smooth over the moment. But when you stop engaging, you take away their chance to use words as a bandage for the same wound they keep opening. You force them to sit with the reality of their actions without your emotional labor cushioning the blow. That's when the discomfort sets in. That's when they start to realize that maybe they've gone too far. Maybe they've pushed away something they can't easily get back. Think about it. When someone has constant access to you, they start to believe they can take their time. They can mistreat you, misunderstand you, and still expect you to be there tomorrow. But when you stop answering, when you stop showing up, when you stop giving them the emotional response they've come to rely on, suddenly, the clock starts ticking in their mind. They don't know if you're gone for a moment or for good, and that uncertainty is powerful. Your silence tells them, I don't need to fight for you to see my value. I already know it. It tells them you're not willing to beg, to plead, or to lower yourself just to hold on to something that should have been handled with care in the first place. It draws a clear boundary without you having to say a single word. Now, don't mistake this for coldness. You're not being cruel, you're being clear. You're saying, through your absence, if you want me in your life, you need to treat me as someone worth keeping. And that's a standard, not a punishment. That's self-respect, not spite. It's important to remember that silence doesn't just affect them, it affects you. At first, you might feel a rush of anxiety when you don't respond, when you don't explain yourself, when you don't try to fix things. Your mind might tell you you're being too harsh or that you're risking the relationship. But over time, something shifts. You start to notice that you're calmer, that your days are lighter without the constant emotional back, and forth. You start to realize how much energy you were giving away in the name of fixing. Something that was never yours to fix alone. And that's the beauty of silence. It's not passive. It's intentional. You're not ignoring them because you don't care. You're creating space because you care about yourself enough to stop engaging with something that's hurting you. And in that space, you find your clarity. You see their actions without the noise of their excuses. You see your worth without their validation. You see your future without the constant push and pull of trying to make someone appreciate you. Here's the reality: silence makes people reflect. When your voice is gone, their mind fills in the gap. They replay your last conversation. They analyze your last words. They wonder what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and whether they've lost you for good. And the longer the silence lasts, the more that question gnaws at them. This is where regret often begins. Not in the moment you tell them what they've done wrong, but in the days and weeks when you're no longer there to remind them what they had. So many times, people don't change when you tell them to. They change when they see they no longer have the option not to. Silence shows them the cost of their actions. It removes the comfort of knowing you'll still be around no matter what. And if they truly value you, silence will push them to act, to reach out, to step up. And if they don't, that's your answer. Silence gives you that truth without having to beg for it. It's a filter. The ones who care will find a way through it. The ones who don't will fade away. Either way, you win, because you kept your dignity intact. In the end, your silence isn't about what you take away from them. It's about what you give back to yourself, your peace, your self-respect, and your power. And sometimes the loudest, "I deserve better," you'll ever say is the one you never speak out loud. When you remove yourself from someone's life, you're not just taking away your physical presence. You're taking away the emotional connection, the warmth, the reassurance, the familiarity that they've grown accustomed to. People underestimate how much of an impact their presence makes in someone else's life, because when you're there every day, you don't notice the weight you carry for them. You don't notice how your laugh lightens their mood, how your words soothe their doubts, how your support keeps their world from feeling so heavy. But when all of that is suddenly gone, it leaves a void. And that void isn't something they can just replace. We live in a world where people are distracted by 1,000 things: phones, social media, new experiences. And sometimes they start to think that you're just another part of that noise. But you're not. You're a unique source of energy in their life. You're a certain feeling, a certain comfort, a certain sense of being understood. And when you go silent, when you stop being there in the way you used to, they start to realize that what you brought to their life isn't something they can just scroll and find again. The absence hits them in the small moments first. It's when they have a rough day and instinctively go to share it with you, only to remember they can't. It's when something funny happens and they pick up their phone to send it to you, but you're not there to read it. It's when they feel lonely late at night, and instead of hearing your voice or reading your words, they're left with silence. Those are the moments where it starts to sink in, not in the big dramatic scenes, but in the quiet, everyday situations where you used to show up for them without them even asking. That's why absence is so powerful. It's not just about being gone. It's about removing the ease and comfort they took for granted. It's about making them feel the weight of what it means to not have you in their corner anymore. When you're always there, they don't have to imagine life without you. But when you step back, you give them the full experience of that reality, and it's a reality that often hits harder than any words ever could. You have to understand that emotions don't respond to logic. You can sit across from someone and explain your worth in the most eloquent way possible, and it might still not land the way you want it to. But when they feel the gap your absence creates, it's not intellectual, it's emotional. It's in their chest, in their gut, in the heaviness of their thoughts when they can't just reach for you anymore. That's when they begin to truly feel the value of what they've lost. And here's something interesting. When you're gone, the mind has a way of romanticizing the past. All the little annoyances they might have focused on before fade into the background. And what they're left with are the good moments, the best parts of you. The way you made them feel safe. The way you could make them laugh when no one else could. The way you seemed to understand them in ways even they couldn't explain. Your absence doesn't just leave a hole. It highlights all the ways you filled it before. It's not about making them suffer. It's about allowing reality to do the work for you. You're not calling them to remind them of your worth. You're not showing up to prove a point. You're simply letting life, without you, speak for itself. And believe me, life without you says more than any speech you could ever give. The thing about absence is it has a way of shifting power. When you're always present, they're in control. They can decide when to engage, when to pull back, when to pay attention. But when you're not there, that control starts to slip from their hands. Suddenly, they're not the one deciding when they interact with you. They can't just snap their fingers and have you appear. Now they're at the mercy of whether you respond, whether you come back, whether you let them in again. That shift changes everything, and time plays an important role here. At first, they might not notice. They might be distracted, telling themselves it's fine, that they're okay without you. But as days turn into weeks, as they keep reaching for something that isn't there, the realization grows heavier. The space you left doesn't get filled. It just becomes more obvious. And with every moment they're reminded of your absence, their mind naturally goes back to you over and over again. It's also worth saying, absence works because it's rare. Not everyone can give the kind of connection you gave. Not everyone listens the way you listened. Not everyone cares in the way you cared. And deep down, they know it. They might not have seen it when you were there every day, but they'll feel it when you're gone. That's when they start to think, maybe I won't find that again. Maybe I already had the best and didn't realize it. You're not trying to manipulate. You're not trying to play games. You're simply allowing the natural consequence of their actions to unfold. If someone has been careless with you, if they've taken you for granted, the only way they can truly understand the loss is by experiencing it. That's what your absence does. It forces them to live in the reality they created. And the most powerful part, you're not standing there watching to see if they notice. You're not waiting by the phone. You're not holding your breath. You're living your life. You're focusing on your own joy, your own growth, your own peace. You're showing them, not with intention, but through your very existence, that your world doesn't stop because they're not in it. And nothing makes someone feel the loss more than realizing the other person's life is moving forward without them. So when you step back, remember this, you're not disappearing out of spite. You're creating space for them to truly feel the weight of what they've lost. And whether they ever come back or not, you've reclaimed your energy, your power, and your peace. Because sometimes the emptiness they feel without you is the only thing that will ever make them realize how full their life was with you in it. When someone hurts you or starts to pull away, your first instinct might be to chase, to get answers, to fix whatever's wrong. That's human nature. We want to repair what feels broken, especially when we care deeply about the person. But here's the truth. Pouring your energy into trying to change their behavior often leaves you empty, drained, and even more unsure of yourself. The moment you redirect that energy back to yourself instead of them, everything shifts. That's when the pain you're feeling can become the very fuel that makes you stronger, happier, and more in control of your own life. Self-focus isn't about pretending you don't care or acting like you're unaffected. It's about taking all the energy you would have spent on them, every overanalyzed text, every restless night, every mental loop of what ifs, and using it to build something better for yourself. It's about refusing to let their behavior dictate your worth or your joy. When you do this, something powerful happens. The same silence that leaves them wondering where you went becomes the space where you begin to heal, grow, and rise above the situation entirely. The truth is, focusing on yourself in these moments isn't easy. There's a part of you that's still deeply connected, still hoping they'll come back, still wanting to check their social media or reach out just to feel that sense of closeness again. But every time you resist that urge, you're sending a message to yourself that you matter more than their attention. You're proving that your happiness isn't tied to their actions. That's the kind of self-respect that can't be taken away, no matter what they do. And here's what's even more interesting. When you turn inward and start rebuilding yourself, you naturally start to radiate a different kind of energy. You're no longer coming from a place of desperation or fear of losing them. You're coming from a place of strength, confidence, and self-worth. You might change your routine, dive into hobbies you've neglected, spend more time with friends who uplift you, or even set new goals that excite you. Each step you take away from obsessing over them is a step toward creating a life that you genuinely love. It's in these moments that people often realize they underestimated you. When they see that you're not sitting in the same place they left you. When they notice that you're becoming happier, healthier, and more fulfilled without their input, it shakes their perception of you. You're no longer the person who could be taken for granted. You're someone they now have to work to be around again. And that shift in dynamic is powerful. It turns the tables without you ever having to force it. But here's the thing, you can't do this with the secret intention of getting them back. That defeats the purpose. You have to genuinely focus on you for you. You have to commit to becoming the version of yourself who would be thriving whether they return or not. When your growth is authentic, when your energy is truly invested in your own well-being, you stop being dependent on their validation. And that's when you become magnetic in a way that's impossible to fake. Think about it. When you've been in pain, you've probably looked at someone else and thought, they seem so at peace, so in control of their life. That kind of presence isn't accidental. It comes from choosing not to let another person's actions determine how you feel about yourself. It comes from building inner stability, so no matter what's happening outside of you, you're grounded and secure inside. That's exactly what happens when you stop chasing and start focusing inward. The beauty of this approach is that it doesn't just help you in this one situation. It changes the way you handle every relationship in your life. You stop settling for half-hearted effort because you've already experienced what it's like to pour into yourself and feel whole. You become less afraid of letting people go because you've proven to yourself that you can rebuild and even thrive after someone walks away. That kind of confidence is unshakable. And yes, this transformation can be painful at first. Growth always is. It's uncomfortable to pull your attention away from someone you love, especially when every part of you wants to hold on. But every day you choose yourself, the grip of that attachment weakens. You start sleeping better, smiling more, making plans that have nothing to do with them. Your world begins to feel bigger again, full of possibility instead of scarcity. Here's the irony. Sometimes the very act of you moving on is what makes them finally see your worth. When they realize they no longer have access to the person who once gave so much of themselves freely, it stirs something in them. They might reach out. They might try to re-enter your life. And if they do, you'll be standing in a completely different position. One where you can decide if they even deserve to come back. But whether they return or not, the real win is that you've built a version of yourself that doesn't crumble when someone pulls away. You've learned to channel heartbreak into progress, rejection into motivation, and loneliness into freedom. You've proven to yourself that your happiness is yours to create, not theirs to give or take away. In the end, the pain of losing someone can either keep you stuck or push you forward. Choosing to focus on yourself turns that pain into power. And when you live in that power, you're no longer chasing anyone. You're simply living in a way that makes people want to catch up to you. Patience is one of the hardest things to practice when you feel like you've lost someone you care about. Everything in you wants to break the silence, reach out, fill the gap with words just so you can know where you stand. That's because uncertainty is uncomfortable. It makes us restless. It makes us overthink. And it makes us crave closure, even if it's the wrong kind. But the truth is, time can do something that no amount of chasing or explaining can ever achieve. Time has a way of revealing what's real, and it works best when you allow it to unfold without interference. When you choose to hold your silence and give space, you're not just stepping back physically. You're letting time breathe. You're giving the other person the opportunity to actually process what life is like without you, without the constant reassurance of your presence. And that's something they can't fully feel in the heat of an argument or in the moment you tell them you're done. In those moments, emotions are high, pride gets in the way, and people rarely think clearly. But as the days pass, that intensity fades, and what remains is a much quieter, but more honest realization of what they had and what they might have lost. Time works in layers. In the beginning, they might not notice much. They might distract themselves, keep busy, tell themselves they're fine. But then, little by little, reality starts to sink in. They have a moment they want to share with you. But you're not there. They go through something tough and instinctively reach for you, but they can't. They look back at old memories, and suddenly the absence feels heavier. That's when the regret starts to creep in. Not all at once, but gradually in ways they can't ignore. The most powerful thing about letting time work in your favor is that you're not forcing the realization. You're allowing it. If you try to rush it, if you push for them to see your worth immediately, it often backfires. People resist when they feel pressured. But when there's nothing to fight against, nothing to defend themselves from, their guard slowly drops. That's when the quiet truths start to reach them. That's when they start to see you clearly again. Not through the lens of conflict or pride, but through the lens of what they truly feel. And here's the part that's hard to accept. You can't control how long that process takes, and you can't guarantee the outcome. That's why this is as much about you as it is about them. Time isn't just giving them space, it's giving you perspective. It's allowing you to see whether you miss them or just the idea of them. It's showing you how you feel when you're not constantly tied to their presence. Sometimes the clarity you gain during that silence is the very thing that makes you realize you don't even want them back. You also begin to notice that time has a healing effect on your own heart. At first, the silence feels like an open wound. It stings, it aches, it's raw. But over days and weeks, you find yourself thinking about them less often. You find yourself laughing with friends, getting lost in things you enjoy, sleeping more peacefully. And while they might be sitting in a growing discomfort of loss, you're slowly finding peace. That's the quiet gift of giving time its space. It's not just working on them, it's working on you too. The irony is that when you truly let time do its job, you stop counting the days until they come back. You stop watching the clock, waiting for the phone to ring. You start living again. And that shift in you is something they will feel even if they're not speaking to you. Because energy is real, people can sense when you're holding on versus when you've genuinely let go of the rope. And when they finally do feel the full weight of your absence, the pull to come back is often much stronger than it would have been if you had chased them in the first place. That's because now they're not returning out of guilt or obligation. They're returning out of a genuine recognition of what you mean to them. They've had to sit in the reality of not having you, and they've decided for themselves that it's not a reality they want to live in. That choice is far more powerful than anything you could have convinced them of with words. Of course, sometimes they won't come back. Sometimes time just confirms that they're content without you. And as much as that can hurt, it's still a gift because it tells you the truth without you having to waste months or years trying to fix something that was never meant to last. It saves you from investing in someone who isn't willing or capable of showing up for you in the way you deserve. Letting time do its work requires trust. Trust that if someone truly values you, they will feel your absence and act on it. Trust that you don't have to force the outcome for it to be right. And trust that no matter what happens, you will be okay, because in the end, the silence and the waiting aren't about punishing them or playing games. They're about giving both of you the chance to see the truth without the noise of constant interaction. So you stay still. You hold your ground. You let the days pass without breaking the silence just to ease your own discomfort. You give them the gift and the burden of feeling what life is like without you in it. And while time does its work on them, it's quietly building you into someone even stronger, even more centered, even more certain of your worth. Because sometimes the most powerful change doesn't happen in the moments you speak. It happens in the time you wait.